Hey, Petey Pablo. I'm here for it.
What is up? Happy Sunday morning. It's MLB Live Before Lock here on the Awesemo YouTube channel. Pete McCarthy, Eric Lindquist. We got Jordan producing our show sponsored by Odds Shopper this morning as we're coming at you a little bit earlier than usual because it's big NBA day as well. NBA starting up at 1 o'clock. So we got a lot of NBA content coming up. So over the course of the next hour plus, we'll be breaking down the baseball slate. And then the future will be back at our regularly scheduled time. But Eric, how we doing on the West Coast? Up early? Coffee? What have we ingested so far this morning?
No ingestion of anything besides coffee, because nothing like coffee on an empty stomach feels great. Everybody knows. I don't know. It's just really early. It's 6:45 out here on the West Coast. So we're ready to ride. It's good to see you. I was going to say, that's why I'm in such a chipper mood, is that I get to hang out with my buddy Pete for an hour. That's never a bad thing.
We get to roll, baby. You know, last week I had a wedding, so I was up in New York. So I had some fun with that, but I'm back. You're stuck with me for the foreseeable future on these Sunday mornings. And, you know, we're going to power through.
We're stuck with Jordan Klein. Let's be serious. Also, no mistakes today. Be perfect.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm looking at you.
Ooh.
Mr. Tampa Rays hat. Look at you.
No mistakes from Jordan or me?
No, just from Jordan Klein. That'd be great.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Jordan. Come on. Clean it up. Again, show brought to you by Odds Shopper. Subscribe, like, the whole 9 yards. We always appreciate that. And, of course, once you do subscribe, you can hit that notification button. You get alerts when our shows go live. Like right now, maybe you wouldn't have known unless you're getting that alert. And you're like, all right, ready for some baseball today and get this sucker all fired up. So let's jump right into it. We got a little bit more than an hour with you. And you got a little bit more time than that before lock, obviously, with the way it's playing out today. But the Boston Red Sox, the Baltimore Orioles going at it at Camden Yards. Nick Pivetta, Jordan Lyles, the pitching matchup there. Nick Pivetta, you know, the strikeout numbers haven't been bad so far this season, but the expected ERA up around a run per inning, not as great.
No, not as great, but this ballpark is outrageous right now. I don't really know what to say about it. They push the fences back, and we never knew really what to make of it. I don't know how to quantify 17 feet or 19 feet or whatever it was in most of those spots, but I mean, that's the difference between balls leaving a yard and staying in, apparently, in like a drastic fashion, because it just seems like every single game, just smashing the under in Baltimore is just coming to fruition. So as much as Nick Pivetta is a guy that I don't think he's really had his best stuff so far in the early going of this season. 16.7% walk rate. That's not great. That's up from 9.8% last season. 26.5% K percentage in 2021, down to 20.5% so far this season with an 8.93 expected ERA. There's definitely been some problems, but this is a Baltimore lineup and a ballpark that seem to be just complete pitcher smashes. So Nick Pivetta, this is a weather spot, so we got to be paying attention to it. There's a couple of these that exist on the slate. This is, I think, the most prominent one. So just be paying attention to that. I don't really know what I want to have happen there. It's 6:49, so we still have 3+ hours till we need to decide what to do there. I think it's going to start on time, so just be aware that pitchers have some maybe extra risk because it could end up having some rain come in halfway through that game. So Nick Pivetta, I like him as a pitching option. I'm going to like a lot of pitching options against Baltimore. I expect positive regression from him. It's early in the season. I don't see anything in his pitch mix that concerns me. So Nick Pivetta would be an awesome SP2 if we knew he was a full go.
Yeah, and Pivetta could get those 12 flyouts to the warning track and then, be done after 4 innings if the rain comes in at a certain time. So obviously the weather is something that you want to watch closely, but you know, it's amazing. You talked about Baltimore and the new dynamics of that ballpark with the fences being pushed back, but it's like everywhere. And the ball's just not taking off. The weather hasn't exactly popped where you get a bunch of games where it's 75 degrees and the ball is carrying. Like, as someone who loves playing for home runs, it's not been as fun.
No, it's been cold. And again, this is the way that it is most Aprils. So I'm very curious because, again, there's some adjusted weather factors that you can really see, and you can see that the ball is probably pretty dead. But also, once it starts to be 90, 95 degrees across the country, I don't think we're going to have the same problems we have now. It's 63, cold, wet, winds blowing out slightly there in Baltimore. But again, these park dimensions are just different here. I'm looking here. The rain isn't a big concern at all, Eric. Okay, well, that's lovely because I'm seeing the opposite on radar. I just type in, the ballpark and you put it into Google and, there's ways that you can see the list there. So I'm just saying that it could cause a delay mid-game. Yeah, it's just something to pay attention to. So pay attention, Boston, Baltimore. Again, we're 3 hours away, so I'm not going to be overreacting to anything one way or another. I know Doug Weissman's there in the chat saying fade Pavetta, bad weather. Well, that's why you don't fade Nick Pavetta here. I called him Doug Pavetta because his name's Doug, but there we go. I definitely think he's a guy that's very serviceable. Most righties are going to be very serviceable against Baltimore all season long.
And just for the scoreboard, for the record, Jordan Klein, 0 mistakes. Eric Lindquist, 1.
You're an asshole. That's okay. Keep talking. Go ahead.
Too early
for fun. Way to really set the tone of this show in the first game.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have that kind of show here.
Shout
today,
out Loco. Eric. He's up burning the morning oil. I don't know how to say the midnight oil equivalent. So the rain isn't a big concern. If it's not, then that's great because Nick Pavetta really stands out.
Yeah, well, the weather ain't that bad there, is what he's saying. So we'll see. Everybody's a meteorologist, but we got another 3 hours until they throw the first pitch, another 4+ hours till we're expecting.
But I will say
rain.
golfers tend to, again, being a golfer, we tend to pay attention to the weather more than just about anybody all the time. True statement, Jordan Klein. True statement.
Baseball DFS players right up there with you.
Yeah, well, I guess so. Well, what if you're both? How about that?
Then you know.
Well, how about Kmart?
We were talking a little bit about like the lack of home runs early on here. From a betting perspective, it's been pretty advantageous to pound the under over the opening weeks of this season. Has it affected your DFS strategy at all? Just kind of a big picture question here beyond just Camden Yards in this particular game. Like, are you doing anything different because we haven't seen a whole lot of 15-run outbursts or, 4 homer games from a given team on a night? I mean, they've happened sporadically, but not as consistently as we've seen over the years.
Well, batters still have positive correlation. So I don't think we're in need of like looking at ejecting on hitting stacks and stacking up teams. You still get positive correlation. But I will say there's guys like yesterday where a guy like Hunter Renfroe, Christian Yelich, guys from Milwaukee that I feel like I just went way, way overweight to in a way that I normally wouldn't with a batter. I didn't want to just cap certain guys at 25, 30% or something of that nature. Like I've done some larger, like 7, even 8 game type slates in the past. Still just kind of getting and focusing on the stacks and how to build lineups with low ownership and things of that nature. I've been more inclined to go overweight on some of those guys just because I feel like they're the ones with enough pop to really still leave the yard. I've been so overweight to the Yankees the last like 3-4 nights because you look at their hard hit percentages. If any team is going to be crushing baseballs against a bad pitcher like Elieser Hernandez or guys of that nature, it's going to be the Yankees. So I think it's just being specific about which teams you're taking overweight approaches to. I will also say very slightly, and this isn't, I don't have any data to back this up. So this is just kind of a feel thing that I've started doing. I've been going lesser and lesser on value stacks. Value stacks generally are bad teams. They're low priced for a reason. Even Cincinnati in Coors the last couple of days, it just feels like, I don't think people understand hitting home runs at Coors is not really a thing. Like it's a harder ballpark. If you take the adjustments on Baseball Savant of Vlad Guerrero, he has significantly less home runs if he were to be a member of the Rockies than what he does as a member of the Toronto Blue Jays. It's just the doubles and keeping the line moving and things of that nature. So with a dead baseball, with the ball not coming out as fast, I'm more inclined to go to the big boppers, really go overweight to certain pieces of value with power, like a Hunter Renfroe, things of that nature. But again, these are just kind of feel things. I'm not going out of my way to try to quantify it right now because I think we're just accumulating sample size. The weather's been bad. Also, pitchers have been pretty hot out of the gate here. I guess a shortened spring training, I guess you're going to kind of throw a baseball, maybe just the timing at the plate. I don't really know. I don't think it's very quantifiable, but definitely stuff that you just want to keep paying attention to over the next month.
Yeah, one of those things is that the hitters are usually behind the pitchers to start off. So maybe it takes a little while for them to get going. We've seen a lot of the position players get hurt as well with the shortened spring training and some of those kinds of issues. But I mean, I think that's some dynamite analysis of what's happening. I mean, this is what baseball wants to do. They want to prevent that 8-hitting, 170-pound shortstop from going opposite field to hitting home runs.
Kevin Newman hits 40 home runs. What the hell are we doing here? Yeah, I get it. So, but also, think about Jordy Mercer. That's the guy who comes to my mind, where it's just like he had some power there for a hot second, where it was like, how is Jordy Mercer hitting balls out of the park right now? And that was just the juiced ball type situation. And now you're seeing massive regression for a lot of these guys. The best hitters are still going to be the best hitters. It's just not going to be as frequently.
No. And we've certainly seen it in those like Sunday night spotlight games where I think there's been a total of like 4 runs or something the first 3 weeks of the year. We'll see if that changes tonight with the Mets and the Phillies in that spotlight. So let's get back to Boston, Baltimore. Jordan Lyles going for the Orioles on the other side of this game. Nothing special when you look at his numbers. Not a big strikeout guy. Is he worth throwing a dart on against this Boston lineup that isn't expecting a lot of runs today, according to the implied run total?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have anything updated right now. Top pitchers tool, top stacks tool. It should be updated in the next 4 minutes. I would have to assume 10 a.m. is probably the earliest they would expect anything to be updated here. So once we have that, we'll see if there's some super low ownership. I'm expecting that. I would expect Jordan Lyles to be one of those guys that if you wanted to put 1 or 2 lineups into 150 and you just fell into them, I'm assuming Boston with a 4.3 implied run total, which just looking at the board is pretty standard to above standard on this slate. You have the Yankees with 4.7. You basically have nobody else that's up above 4.4. So Boston, I expect to have a little bit of ownership going up against a really bad Jordan Lyles. So I don't completely hate the idea of putting up a Lyles up there. Boston has proven to have some strikeouts in that order. And if they're going to put Trevor Story up in the leadoff, like that's just kind of another situation where as good as he has been long-term, the short-term has just showed that he's going to strike out at a very high clip, 28.4%. So if you get him leading off, as opposed to, I don't know who else it would be in this spot. Kike has been around 22.3%. It's just one of those things where you're going to see maybe an extra at bat, maybe a third at bat if Jordan Lyles is really, really on for a guy like Trevor Story. And that could be an extra K opportunity that, is significantly better than somebody like a Verdugo with his 7.8% K percentage batting second.
Yeah. All right. So Boston, Baltimore, they'll be leading off the day. And remember, they kind of stagger the start times now. So they get 30 minutes all to themselves. If you're not watching it NBA today, you can lock into that for 30 minutes until the rest of the games start up. And we get the Minnesota Twins and the Tampa Bay Rays. Josh Winder going for Minnesota and Josh Fleming going for the Tampa Bay Rays. It's always fun to try to guesstimate exactly what the Tampa Bay Rays are going to do with their pitching situation on a given day. It hurts more on the showdowns maybe than the classic entries, but you never quite know what you're going to get.
Yeah, he's going to start. He's not going to really go long enough. I don't think he's going to be a guy when we get the top pitchers updated. I don't think he's going to be a guy that has any kind of top 2 pitcher percentage. I think you can pretty much write him off on this slate. The one thing, Minnesota, as good as they've been over to start up, they've certainly surpassed my expectations for them at the beginning of the season. No Buxton in the lineup and went completely nuts against McClanahan yesterday. That was nice to see. But Josh Fleming, I don't think he's going to pitch long enough to really be viable. 65-60 his last 2 out, 67, I guess, on the 14th. So there is enough pitch mix, maybe at like 70, where at 7,700, if everybody beneath him fails, you can maybe fall into a share or two, but not anything that's particularly enticing for me to land on.
I'm being compared in the chat to a substitute teacher in the ranks of Awesemo here.
I see that. I kind of
be pulling out the TV and saying, "Hey, it's a movie day," or have a bunch of dittos ready for you
in the corner. Yeah, you just go, your wife, and she's watching because obviously, no, you just sit in the corner and you just not kick your feet up, have a day. Substitute teachers were always the craziest thing growing up. It's like you've just trusted an entire room of strangers of like 15 to 18-year-olds in high school and stuff that are just at the height of their powers of doing awful stuff. And you've just trusted them to a complete stranger. Best of luck to you.
And one thing you realize when you become an adult is I think the bar to become a substitute teacher is like pretty low.
Fact.
I don't want to offend any substitute teachers.
And I'm not trying to offend you because that's not
me, but I don't think you need to be the. Usually it's like the 22-year-old just out of college, isn't it? You have a degree and boom, you can take care of 30 kids at once and handle the spitballs. So yeah, that's pretty much what I'm doing here. I like to think of it as a band that's not very good that gets like a certain slot every week at the local tavern.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I have like a residency now on Sunday mornings.
And you just know they're going to play like Sweet Home Alabama to start off every set, and you just want to die a little inside. Yes.
Yeah.
Like the not good version. It goes too fast.
Yeah.
They always have to speed it up because every bad cover band speeds it up too much. Listen, next time you'll notice.
Well, I'll tell you right now, I am not speeding up this show too much. We're still in the second game.
Oh, we're fine.
We're like 3 pitchers in.
There's a couple
minutes.
write-off spots, so we'll be okay.
Let's get to Josh Winder on the other side. Pretty low strikeout rate for what we've seen from this guy so far this year, 12.2%. Going up against Tampa Bay Rays team that's implied run totals about 4.5. So Tampa Bay certainly a team we got to look at here.
Yeah, so if you're not going to roster Jordan Lyles down there, there's a guy at 4K, and Josh Winder, I think, is actually in play if you're trying to just stack up complete bat sesh. 0.97 whip, 3.48 ERA so far. I don't know if that's really going to be something that maintains here for him. He only has a 12.2% K percentage, but he is a flat 4K. Generally, you get guys who are not even stretched out to be down at 4K. So we have some elite pitching on this slate at the top end. I think if you're just trying to go super bats heavy, and don't forget, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 spots that are hitter spots on DraftKings.com. So you have an opportunity to roster 9 different guys that you might not be capable to put together in one lineup without a 4K pitcher. So Josh Winder sounds nuts, but he's actually in play for me today.
Well, 4K, I mean, guys are playable. Sorry, I had a cough, so I muted myself for a second.
Oh, that was so nice of you.
It was like a little cough button, you know?
He's not good. Don't get me wrong. Like, Josh Winder is not
4K.
He's not going to go out there, but 4K is 4K. Plus, he's 25, made his major league debut a little bit later in life. That's never a good sign. That's something Greg Ehrenberg always reminds people of. You know, when you're 25, 26 making your major league debut, as opposed to 21, 22, you probably don't have the best stuff in the world, but I am willing to roster some Josh Winder purely because of price.
How about the kid on Cincinnati last night, Overton? I know he's minimum priced in the showdown.
But that was a different type of slate where I didn't think it was very cost prohibitive to play all of the top pitchers, and all of them smashed. So like, as good as he was, you have to always take it slate by slate. And Corbin Burns is number one for me by a long ways. And he has been for a long time. So Corbin Burns really sticks out. But if I want to just smash a bunch of Toronto bats, if I want to put in a ton of Yankees bats, if I want to make that path work, Josh Winder is not the worst thing. He's stretched out. And again, he's 4K. It's very rare that you get somebody who can actually go 65, 70 pitches at 4K.
In Tampa Bay, not the worst ballpark in the world to be throwing a dart at. And hope you're not seeing a bunch of home runs leaving the ballpark there. It's generally more pitcher friendly. Next up, San Diego and Pittsburgh. Joe Musgrove is going to be an interesting pitcher today. He's not Corbin Burns, but he gets this Pittsburgh Pirates team. His strikeout rate has been pretty high, over 25% over the course of this year. The Pittsburgh Pirates implied run totals all the way down at 3.2. So look, Burns is the guy. Do you get to Musgrove as maybe a very high-end pitching pair with Burns? How do you play Musgrove on this particular slate?
Yeah, you play some Musgrove on this slate. I don't think there's going to be any issue dropping onto some shares of Musgrove as well. I think 10-2, 9,600. I mean, it's not like we're paying 11K for these guys. I think there's going to be teams that fit. The thing you have to be aware of is if you're going to play Burns and Musgrove together, there's only a limited number of stacks that you're really going to put together with them. So there might be some heavy duplication going that direction, but I still think that there's enough ways to get different with some of those bats that we can make it work. So Joe Musgrove, he's been decent enough here to start the season. He's been really good, actually. 2.16 ERA, 0.88 whip. We've seen the K's kind of regress a little bit, but I'm expecting him. I mean, he played Cincinnati back-to-back games, 7-4. That's kind of a cream puff spot. He had Arizona as well. This San Diego team's shown just that they're going to be pretty good here behind him too. So pretty good chance on FanDuel of getting the win, quality start. I think he's a really good pitching option if you're trying to get different as your SP1 on DK too.
And, you know, yes, you kind of play him and hope Burns gets smashed would be the other way around, or at least isn't Corbin Burns in what he has been so far this season. So a couple different ways to get to Musgrove. Do you have him just eyeballing it, I guess, for now, as the second best pitching option on this slate. Zach Wheeler's going up against Miami. Miami wrecked Wheeler last time around. You got Severino against the Royals, but it's not exactly 2018 Severino here.
I'm torn because, again, we don't have the top pitchers, and obviously I'm going to see what this ownership is going to land on, and that's going to help dictate some stuff. I might have a little bit more interest in Kevin Gausman than Joe Musgrove. I know Pittsburgh's been really, really bad, but there's some stuff going on with Kevin Gausman coming off of an unbelievable last season. And I think that we can be looking at him above expectation. Plus, I think Houston's going to strike out a lot more this season than they have in the past. I think I've talked about that on a few shows, not just because we saw Ohtani go and, torch them for 12 Ks, because Ohtani's going to do that against anybody when he's got the full arsenal working. But I think Kevin Gausman's made some amazing adjustments in the last 2 years, eliminated certain pitches that just didn't work for him. And he's just got good stuff now. And so I think against Houston, that looks like a scary spot. Doesn't look ideal, but I think Kevin Gausman, I might like a little bit more than just Joe Musgrove, because I'm expecting the ownership to be lower. If it's not, because obviously Gausman is cheaper at 9,200. I think Musgrove is just a fantastic option, but I expect him to be higher owned.
No, Gausman's a great call. And yes, we'll get to him in a moment here when we get into that Houston-Toronto game and his 30+% K rate in the early going so far this year. Just quickly on the other side, San Diego, Pittsburgh, Mitch Keller's pitching for the Pirates. This Padres lineup, I mean, you try to stack him every once in a while. Eric Hosmer's off to a hot start, turning back the clock for him so far this season.
Like, what in the absolute hell? Also, I feel like San Diego has not been on a main slate forever. Like, I do a baseball show just about every single day, and I don't think I've talked about San Diego much, but all I see is the home run alerts. All I see is the fact that there's still some guys that are just smashing the baseball. And, Manny Machado's been really good. We've seen guys kind of step up in other spots like Jurickson, Profar, guys of that nature. So I think that there's a lot of great bats to be getting to on this side. Plus, Mitch Keller's just not very good. 19.8% K percentage, 408 expected slugging here. He's limited hard contact so far this season. 29.3% is a pretty jarring number to be looking at. But last season, he had a 47.5% hard hit percentage. So we got to expect some negative regression in store for him.
And this game, another spot where there is some possibility for rain, just something to keep an eye on over the course of the next 3 hours until we get to lock. You can get access to all the great Awesemo Plus tools and content for nearly every DFS sport out there with an Awesemo Plus weekly pass for $29.95. Now, this will give you full access to all the premium content and tools on Awesemo.com, including player projections, ownership projections, top golfers, lineup builder, and much, much more. And of course, if you're only looking to play baseball, you can sign up for one of our Awesemo Plus MLB packages for as low as $4.95 weekly. That's a cup of coffee, baby, just like Eric's drinking. Please note that Fantasy Cruncher, that's an add-on. It can easily be added with these packages at checkout, but is not included in our base packages. Stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. I'm on the coffee train, empty stomach as well. So here we go. Houston, Toronto, Kevin Gausman. I mean, finish it off. Tell us all about the wonderful world of Kevin Gausman. 32+% strikeouts. So, about a third of the batters he has faced, he is striking out. Not a guy you thought of as a big strikeout guy until really came into his own, as you mentioned last year at San Francisco, and he's keeping it rolling with the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, he's keeping it rolling. 21% swinging strike rate on the season. What the hell? I mean, this guy is just unbelievable. I think if he's going to not be popular, Houston's a team I love to stack, and I'll probably stack them because I'm assuming against a good pitcher like Gausman, they're going to be completely unowned. They've got some lefties in Tucker, Alvarez. You can play them every day ending in Y, but I just see Kevin Gausman as such a good pitcher. A 0% walk rate, 0 walks in the year of our Lord 2022, 32.6% K percentage. That would be a career high at the moment, but everything is working for him here. A 438 xwOBA. It's a little high. That's something you got to keep in mind there. xwOBA 295, but I'm still seeing him as probably a guy that's going undervalued by the public. I'm going to see what this ownership lands at here in the early going once we get everything ran over here at Awesemo. And I'm expecting him to be lower owned than Joe Musgrove. I'm definitely expecting him to be lower owned than Corbin Burns. And as a result, against a tough Houston team, I'm still willing to take that shot. I talked about it before as well, where I think Houston might strike out more. Martin Maldonado's always been in that lineup batting ninth, 30.8% K percentage. But you get Jose Siri, who's been in this lineup quite a bit as well, 35.6% for him. You get Aledmys Diaz, kind of run-of-the-mill, 21.4%. Jeremy Pena, as incredible as he's been as a rookie, 21.7%. That's basically 4 hitters that are striking out at average or above. That's very different from what we've seen from Houston in the past. So, yes, you're going to get your Yordan Alvarez. You're going to get your Kyle Tucker, Alex Bregman, guys who just strike out under a 20% clip in that lineup every single day. And that's going to make the matchup look very, very difficult. But Gausman's stuff is elite. He's a guy that right now, as long as that 4-seamer and the slider combo are just working, I feel so good about rostering him against anybody.
And I understand we're now at May 1st. And look, for the people watching this show, you're not falling prey to this kind of thing. But I think there are plenty of people that still say, oh, it's a pitcher against Houston. I don't want to play against the Astros, right? But this isn't an Astros team with Jose Altuve healthy right now. Carlos Correa is gone. This isn't the Astros offense of the last couple of years. So it can be, and it is an advantageous spot. And that's why I think when we see the ownership a little bit more and the projections that are there, you're not going to have people running to get Kevin Gausman, a non-big name pitcher, against the Astros.
Right. Yeah, they're not. I don't think, at least. Maybe the public's gotten much sharper, and we're going to see Kevin Gausman with like 35% ownership or something, but I find it very unlikely. But with his K stuff at the given moment, even against this Houston lineup that has shown the ability to limit strikeouts over a multi-year sample size, and a lot of those same pieces are there. You have no Altuve, you have no Correa, you have none of these other guys that might be limiting some of that as well. I think that they've added some more strikeouts than in years past. So I feel pretty confident that he's going to be my second highest owned pitcher behind Corbin Burns.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Burns, Gausman, and then you can get to Musgrove there in that 3 spot. If you're looking at some of the top pitchers today. On the other end, Framber Valdez going for Houston against this Toronto Blue Jays team that could always mash, always has the possibility to hit some home runs. It's one of those spots where you play a little bit of both sides. Are you stay away from Valdez? The strikeout rate has been pretty low this year, and then see if these bats can get something going. We saw some crooked numbers yesterday at Rogers Center.
Yeah, I love Toronto, but against Framber Valdez, this is a guy that's just so hard to stack against because you look at his launch angle for the season. He keeps the ball. He had like over a 70% ground ball rate in 2021, 275 expected slugging this season. That's absurd. Like these are, top 10% in the league type numbers. He's been walking a lot of guys, so the stack potential is there, 13.8% walk rate. He's around 10.8%. If he ever found a way to limit that, he would be like an elite real-life pitcher. The K stuff will never be there in a meaningful way, down to 19.5% this season, career 22.4% average in his 5 seasons in the bigs. So I don't really expect a whole lot of swings and misses here against a phenomenal offense in Toronto. I think there is stackability, but not a crazy amount. It's purely because he walks enough guys, gives up some hard hits, has that kind of an ability, but it's death by a million cuts. You have to kind of know he's keeping the ball in the yard a majority of the time.
Yeah, it's always a big key. And it's something that, I don't look at enough is, do you get the ball on the ground? Is this a pitcher that, maybe you could score some runs, but it's also how you score the runs. You want to have some home runs in your stack if you're going up against the guy. 14
on DK or 18.7 on FanDuel goes a lot further than 3. And, I understand that, that's why we stack is the positive correlation and you get other bats. But also one underrated thing is just you want to have these ceiling performances. And sometimes to land on the specific guy, you stack up a team at the behest of missing out on like the complete upside of 2 or 3 other spots in your roster. You might not get 14 from everybody. I mean, that's ideally what you want, but we've definitely haven't seen that this season. But you get those massive George Springer games like yesterday. Yep. You basically had him as a one-off, or you stacked up and you had him in the lineup and you could make the pieces around it work. And as you go up in terms of the number of lineups that are in a contest, you got to be a little bit closer and you probably needed to have them as a one-off. But if you're playing smaller field stuff, I've been focusing on a lot more 3-max stuff. Having the stack and just being right and getting Springer in that session was enough for me to, more than double X my money on that lineup with Springer in it. So just kind of keep in mind what you're trying to accomplish, what contests you're in here as well. But yeah, that's why it's so tough against a guy like Valdez, who just keeps the ball on the ground and is so elite at that specific thing. It's really hard to look at it and be like, oh, I want to give up 5 roster spots stacking up against this guy in, a large amount of my lineups with his hard hit percentage, like, you still have to keep in mind that there's a lot of other spots where the ball can fly out of the yard.
Yeah, you're probably not going to get the 2-homer game out of George Springer today with this particular pitching matchup, even if the Toronto Blue Jays are able to go out and score 6 runs and, do some damage offensively. You're looking to have that number one. So let's go to Seattle, Miami next up. Not a lot of runs expected in this game. A couple of young, talented pitchers here in Logan Gilbert and Sandy Alcantara going head-to-head. Both these guys have pitched well to this point in the season. Not exactly elite, maybe not in that top 3 area we've been talking about a little bit, but Miami usually a pitcher-friendly ballpark. You get the Sunday afternoon game. What do we think? Let's start with the Logan Gilbert end of this as he goes up against this Miami offense.
Well, this is fun. We just got the top pitchers tool updated. I am ready to rock. So Corbin Burns, 40.5% top 2 pitcher percentage. He's 57% owned. So that makes sense. I'm still going to have a lot of Corbin Burns. He's unfadable at this point for me, especially against the Cubs. Kevin Gausman is second, 26.9%, only 29.9% ownership. So that's not enough negative leverage for me to talk myself off of Kevin Gausman. He's lower owned than guys like Nick Pivetta, who we talked about, where he's kind of your source of salary savings. We'll see if that weather gets anybody off of that and if that ownership comes down in the next 3 hours, but doubtful. But this game has some positive leverage in Mr. Logan Gilbert. 9,400 against a Miami team. This is a great ballpark. Not that Logan Gilbert pitches in a bad ballpark in Seattle, but we're looking at this as a great ballpark in Miami, going up against an offense that has improvements at the top of the order, but it's still bright blue on Baseball Savant in terms of K percentage. You have every guy except for Joey Wendell and Miguel Rojas that have north of a 25% K percentage. That just screams opportunity. So Logan Gilbert, compared to these other aces, 25.9% K percentage. That's definitely above league average. That's definitely really good. It's not going to be close to Corbin Burns and Kevin Gausman. So that's why I'm not going to prioritize him in that right. But he's also very, very low owned and has the best matchup of all 3. So I think we have to look at Logan Gilbert at 5.4% ownership. He's a guy that I think, I might not make as an SP1 very often. I doubt I want to go Gilbert and, punt in that regard. I don't want to give up one of those 3 top guys in Burns, Gausman, and Musgrove in most of my lineups on DK today. But if I'm going to get a value stack or try to get a little bit different in some regards, getting to Logan Gilbert looks like a fantastic thing to do with the 4th best top 2 pitcher percentage on the board.
Yeah, it's a good matchup and not expected a ton of runs in this particular game with over under is 7 here.
Yeah.
And then Sandy Alcantara is another one who is terrific. This Seattle offense expected under 3.5 runs in this game. They're the underdog. How do you like Alcantara's setup here? Not the same strikeout rate as Gilbert, but he's been preventing runs.
Yeah, preventing runs. I mean, 1.18 whip, you look at that. I mean, that's very good, but it's not, we've talked about guys who have been sub 1 whip in the last however long. So yeah, he's limiting the damage when he does get in trouble in some of these spots. He's going deep into games, 98, 96 pitches his last 2 times out. So he's fully stretched out. This is, a spot where against Seattle, they have some better bats than they've had in years past. Same thing with Miami on the other side, but it's still just a really good pitcher. My main thing is that I can't play. You can kind of get shares of a lot of these guys and play the ownership game, but Alcantara is going a little bit over-owned compared to his top 2 pitcher percentage. And I'm already going to just disregard it for Corbin Burns and Kevin Gausman. So I can't disregard it for absolutely everybody. Sandy Alcantara is kind of a casualty of the slate where I prefer those top 3 guys so much substantially more. Logan Gilbert, I'll play the ownership game with for sure and get 10% plus of him in lineups. But Alcantara, it's going to be harder for me to land on simply because, there's just better strikeout stuff that exists on the board. Just 20.2% K percentage. You talked about that. So around a career, 21.2%. As good as he is as a real life pitcher, he's fantastic as a real life pitcher. I find it tough to get to on this slate.
We generally don't work backwards a whole lot, but now that you have, let's do the top pitchers tool first, and then we'll do top stacks a little bit. The games that we did talk about, is there any analysis that changes even just a little bit now that you have the pitchers tool in front of you?
That's a great question. I mean, Boston and Baltimore, seem to be overowned just drastically. And so in that ballpark, again, we need to accumulate more of a sample size. It's still cold as shit in Baltimore, low 60s degrees. It's May 1st, y'all. Move to California. I'm just letting you know. It's warm here.
Or North Carolina.
All the time. Or North Carolina. Come on and raise up. Take your shirt off. Twist it around your head. Spin it like a helicopter. See? It all comes full circle. The people don't know, but we know. Jordan Klein, Petey Pablo over there.
Quoting Petey Pablo at 6 a.m. out on the West Coast. Love it.
We're ready to rock. But yeah, I think that entire game, those offenses, there's also, we had Loco say that there's really no weather risk there. So that's great to see. But even so, I'm just going to be paying attention to it because, what else am I going to do? Well, I'm going to do an NBA show from 9 to 10 with EMAX. So what is that? Breaking it down, 12 noon till 1 p.m. Eastern time. So check that out. We'll be covering the 2 NBA games today, but looks like Baltimore and Boston kind of complete write-offs. And then on the other side, I did say that at the same time that I'm obsessed with Kevin Gausman, there's still positive leverage. Toronto, Houston, 2 really good pitchers in Valdez from a real life perspective, Gausman for DFS purposes and a real life perspective, but both have positive leverage. So I think those are guys to get to too.
Okay. And top stacks, I think you did that.
Yeah,
you said Boston, Baltimore. Okay,
yep,
I just wanted to make sure.
That was from a stack perspective. And,
okay, yeah, that's
and I'd say also just for pitchers, I mean, I had kind of said that Jordan Hicks, unplayable, 6,900, don't do that. The Tampa Bay guy, Josh Fleming, has a little bit higher top 2 pitcher percentage than what I was expecting, 5.4% with 1.3% ownership. I still prefer Josh Winder. He's 4K. If you're just trying to stack up on bats, which is not going to be a path I take very much. Like this is like a couple in 150 kind of a thing, but I'll play a Burns with him. I'll play some guys like that just to get the entire bat selection that I want in some kind of regards. He's stretched out and it's so rare when you get a 4K guy who's stretched out. So Josh Winder, I prefer just because I don't really trust the entire pitch allotment of Josh Fleming. He's 7,700. If I'm going to go to the bottom end with a guy who's only going to cap out at 70 pitches, just give me the 4K guy just about every time.
I'm looking forward to getting to Corbin Burns and breaking down Corbin Burns
dude,
today.
We're
working our way.
I mean, he could honestly be the shortest amount of time we take on any pitcher. Just freaking play him.
Thumbs up.
There you go.
Okay.
Done.
There you go.
Yeah. Just play.
There you go. So now you don't have to wait for the Corbin Burns analysis. You already got it. Make your best bets in 30 seconds or less. Odds Shopper features hundreds of bets daily to give you the edge you need betting NBA and NHL player props. And with expected win percentages and ROIs included, Odds Shopper uses the same DFS projections we use here at Awesemo to filter out the best bets available. Odds Shopper also features a parlay builder with optimized parlays and an arbitrage tool that identifies risk-free, guaranteed profit bets that you can make across sportsbook. You can find the link to Odds Shopper in the description of this video. So head over there now and start making smarter bets. Angels, White Sox, Michael Lorenzen, Dallas Keuchel. Dallas Keuchel is in that Framber Valdez class. I'm always like, I'm going to play against Dallas Keuchel. Let's get all the righties for the Angels in there. And then it doesn't always pop. Doesn't always pop against this guy.
I hate this guy. I've always hated this guy. I don't like
play him.
You can't play him. Career 19% K percentage. He is the pontification. He is the absolute example of a good real life pitcher over the course of most of his career. And then just a terrible DFS item. He's just so unpredictable in spots. There's like complete game shutouts where it's just like, where did that come from with like 3 strikeouts? And then you're just buried in DFS and you feel like an idiot. But this season, 9 ERA, but only a 3.79 expected ERA. I don't really understand some of these numbers that we're looking at there. 12.1% K percentage. I understand that I don't want to go out of my way to roster him, but I think just kind of as far as a target, I'm still going to have interest in these Angels bats. It's impossible. I just don't believe that Dallas Keuchel is any good anymore. And, in the same way that Framber Valdez, the ground ball rate is always something to pay attention to under the 0 degree launch angle that we're kind of talking about. So the ball is still going into the ground here. He's limiting hard contact to this season. It seems like some things are going all right for him in the early going, but I don't want to go out of my way to roster him. And also Kansas City, Cleveland, Seattle, not exactly world beaters. This Angels lineup has some serious stuff going on right now. Taylor Ward has been a monster to start off this season. Brandon Marsh is no slouch himself. He won't be in the lineup because left on left, but still just to give him a shout out. You do have some strikeouts there, but that this is something Adams brought up to me over the course of the last year or 2 years of doing shows with him in baseball back in the day. But when you get one of these guys who just doesn't strike out many players, and then you get these guys with crazy high strikeout rates, whether it's Jared Walsh or Shohei Ohtani, 28.4%, Max Stassi, 30%, Joe Adell, my boy, 36.2%, and you allow them to make contact more frequently, you're going to be in a lot of trouble long-term. So I think the Angels, they definitely make a decent target. They're expensive. You have pitchers you want to get to on the slate, but I think they're going to be a team that I do want to stack up.
Yeah, the Angels are third in the top stack percentage, and the way that I manipulate the top stack tool with some leverage, I had the Angels as my second stack of the day. So this is where, I get annoyed because Dallas Keuchel has one of those 5-inning 1-run starts, and I'm like,
and that's totally
supposed to hit 4
That's totally
going
to be what happens, Pete, but it doesn't take away from over the course of the long term. You see positive leverage on the Yankees and Angels.
Yes.
Give me them a million times out of a million over Boston in this new cavern that is Camden.
Absolutely. Michael Lorenzen has become a starting pitcher now after being a center fielder, a reliever. He hasn't been a bad starting pitcher, but this is a tough matchup against the White Sox.
You've missed the joke on Michael Lorenzen with me, where Michael Lorenzen, the second best hitting pitcher in baseball. I said the first back from like 3 years ago, and then they're like, "Oh, Shohei Ohtani." I'm like, "Well, I don't think he was there yet, but whatever."
Madison Bumgarner.
Yeah, Madison Bumgarner is a bum. Stop it. Stop.
What?
Michael Lorenzen actually played outfield for Cincinnati back in the day.
Bumgarner could be a DH. Come on.
So I could play a pitcher in my outfield spot in my home league. So Michael Lorenzen was like the nuts. He would come in, he'd throw gas. He was a great shutdown guy for Cincinnati for a little while, and you could play him in the outfield and you'd get at bats out of him. And he was just a cheat code once upon a time. So I have a special place in my heart for Michael Lorenzen. I do not have a special place in my heart for him today. We've seen that K percentage top off at around 20% here. He had a really good outing once upon a time to start off this season. It was really frustrating because I didn't really know what to make of him there, but he came out and threw 89 pitches, 79, 93 his last two. Against the White Sox, I just don't really find there to be a reason to go there. I mean, the nicest thing I can say about him is you look at the top two pitcher percentage, 6.9% with just 2% ownership. So if you want to play the ownership game with him, you totally can. But I find him to be pretty unnecessary with how many aces we have on this slate.
Yeah, a couple of aces to get to with Lorenzen in this spot. So yes, certainly one of those situations here. I'm stalling for a second because I think I have an old game. We got
Frenchie Cordero batting in the middle of the Boston lineup that just came through.
I love that.
He has one of the best names ever. He's terrible, so don't play him. But I guess you have to. He's in the middle of the Boston lineup.
See, this is where I'm always hunting for the homers. So I love a guy like Cordero as like one of my sprinkle ins, like a Franmil Reyes, a Frankie Cordero. Like get these guys in there and try to hope I get a home run at $2,500 or whatever.
So what's fun about Frenchie Cordero, he's kind of a StatCast darling in terms of his exit velocity. He absolutely, when he makes contact, it goes forever. It hasn't shown up here so far, but he's only had 4 batted balls, not much opportunity here. So if he starts to hit the ball a little bit harder, that'd be great. But that is a massive K to throw into the middle of that lineup. Now, I'm not going to play any Baltimore pitcher probably all season long, but it's just a guy that generally you see, and it's just jarring to see in the middle of the Boston lineup.
Let's get to Yankees Royals. The Yankees, one of the better offenses on the board. They paid off nicely for you a couple of nights ago, even in a rain-shortened game. It's only one inning that was cut off, but 4 homers, 12 runs on Friday night against the Kansas City Royals. And they get Daniel Lynch today. And as you mentioned a little bit earlier, when you look at the top stacks total, you get positive leverage on the top stack, which is not the way this usually goes.
Lynch will not be a linchpin of my lineups. We'll say that.
Very good.
Thank you very much. I'll see myself out. It's fine. 23.5% K percentage is, very improved from last year's 17.7%. So there's a path to him missing bats. 3.84 expected ERA. I mean, this was a guy that was pretty much coming up in the Royals organization. It was somebody to pay attention to last year. Didn't come to fruition. 6.31 expected ERA. But when you get arm talent like this, there's a lot of great pitchers over the course of the last 100 years of baseball that have had awful debuts and then found a way to put it together at the major league level. So he's a guy to pay attention to long-term. Looking at the top pitchers tool, he's getting absolutely no ownership at 1%, 5.6% top 2 pitcher percentage. If we could see those Ks get back up to the AAA type numbers for him, I don't think it's the worst thing to take some deep shots and GPPs just to have a couple of him in your 150, but definitely against a Yankees lineup that has tons of power. You know what you're doing if you're going to roster a little bit of Daniel Lynch, but as crazy as it sounds, he's 7,100. I don't think it's the worth. I'm starting to talk myself into playing some Jordan Lyles as well for Baltimore. Just seeing Franchi in the middle of that lineup for Boston just got me excited. So I think I have to probably pull the trigger on some 5,400 Jordan Lyles in my 150. But Daniel Lynch also, I mean, these are guys that have absolutely no ownership. These guys down at the bottom end, 1% going to Daniel Lynch. I'll be over that.
It's baseball season. Stuff happens. This is the way it goes.
Thank you.
Well,
is that Yankees? Yeah.
Yes, that's John Sterling. That's baseball season.
I was going to say
the Yankee game. I thought I could, you know all these movies.
Is this a league of their own? Is this a league of their own?
Is that what we're doing? Baseball thing at you, and you're like, what are you talking about?
A league of their own? Is that what we're talking about?
Talk about John Sterling, Susan Waldman, the Yankees radio.
Oh, got it. Sorry. You have to understand I'm in Los Angeles. I have a really funny story. Can I actually tell you my story first?
Go.
My LA story. So I got invited once upon a time. I don't know how Eric Lindquist pulled this off, but I got invited to this nice golf club, Bel Air Country Club. It's a fancy golf club. And, you know, I played golf in college once upon a time. And I had just moved to LA, like within the course of that year. And there's this patio that overlooks number 1. Like you can see everybody teeing off there. And then number 10 goes over this like bridge, this little par 3 that's tucked next to the clubhouse and the pro shop that are like right there. So people can like watch you as you're hitting. And I shot like a couple under on the front. The front 9 out there is not very hard. The back 9 is par 34 and it's a beast. But anyway, teeing off on 10. And there's this big circle of like celebrities. And I'm pretty sure it was like Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, like all these celebrities that are out on this patio having lunch. And they're all around this circle of this really old guy. And I'm trying to figure out who the hell is this guy? I've never recognized him in my life. And so I start, you know, going through my warm up or whatever. And they just start laughing really, really loud. So I back off my shot. And this guy goes, hey, everybody just calm down for a second. So I hit my shot. I hit it on the green. Everybody starts clapping. This guy goes, way to go, kid, and whatever else. Like just some, you know, in my head, that's what it sounded like or whatever. Like, way to go, sport. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, whatever else. And so I start walking away and I ask my buddy, I'm just like, who the hell is that guy? He goes, are you serious? I was like, I've never recognized that guy. Is he famous? Like what? It's fucking Vin Scully, dude. I was like, oh, who's Vin Scully? And he's like, I am never talking to you again. I'm never talking to you again. I was like, oh, sorry. I mean, I had just moved to LA. I'd never heard of Vin Scully in my life. And all of a sudden he is the voice of the Dodgers. What, Jordan Klein? Are you that embarrassed of me?
We're all embarrassed.
It was pretty bad. But afterwards, so every time I see those guys, they're just like, Vin Scully, you're the absolute worst. Like, how could you possibly not know that's him? Anyway,
unbelievable.
Bel Air Country Club is a flex. Yes, it is. Jordan Klein. Sorry about it.
You just went from like a 9 in my book to like an 8.5.
Oh, thanks. It's all right.
Pretty serious drop.
I like to think of myself as an LA 8. So, you know, I'll take 8.5. That was sexuality jokes.
Yes, that was a good one. Luis Severino going for the New York Yankees against the Kansas City Royals. Everybody's in play a little bit against the Royals, but it's as we've talked about, a lot of really good options on the mound. Does Luis Severino get in the mix?
Luis Severino definitely gets in the mix. Again, we have an outrageous amount of talent on this slate. He's one of them. 8,500 Royals offense that's going to be very righty heavy here for Severino as well. I just think he's a guy that long-term, I mean, I bet him to win the AL Cy Young when I was in Arizona a couple of weeks ago. We saw 88 pitches for him on the 20th. We're going to see 90 plus from him going forward. This is a guy that just has electric stuff long-term. So the K's haven't been there in as prominent of a way as what you would want, but he's still just fantastic for an option to get to long-term. Limiting hard contact, 358 expected slugging, 24.1% K percentage, and the walks, 7.6% walk rate. So not really getting himself into trouble like he had in that, what was it, the 2019 season, where I just wanted to beat my head against a wall because he had the best stuff in baseball in 2019, a 1.5 ERA, but there were some games where he'd just walk a ton of dudes and get pulled early and it would just ruin your season-long stuff. So Luis Severino, I always like him. I will always like him. he's just in play when he's sub 9K every single slate.
There you go. Luis Severino, Kansas City Royals in play. Now is the time to check out our best bets package. You can click the link below to subscribe as our team of experts use Awesemo's industry-leading projection models to identify the best bets available in the NBA, in Major League Baseball, and more each day. And it's a good day for that because we got a lot of NBA and baseball coming up. We're confident these bets will be worth more than the price of admission. So click that link below and start betting today. And if you want a preview of our best bets, follow our Twitter handle at Awesemo Best Bets. You can turn on notifications. We'll be posting one free premium bet every single day. And as I mentioned, today's a good day for it. We got a lot of NBA content coming up here on the Awesemo YouTube channel. Eric's going to be back in about an hour and a half with Live Before Lock for the NBA. We've got the deeper dive coming up right after this show at the top of the hour. So a lot happening. Good sports day, a good old Sunday. It's a fun time of the year to get all this going. And soon enough, we'll have NHL playoffs as well. There's one random regular season NHL game, if that's your jam. So you got that fixed as well. Let's get to the Cubs and the Brewers. Oh, we made it. We got to our guy, Corbin Burns. How quick you want to make?
Play him a lot. Okay. There you go.
Marcus Stroman.
Don't play him.
No,
ever.
Burns, look, 35% K rate. I mean, dude, it's just absurd.
Yeah.
Yes, we know. Play him.
It's silly. I will say the one thing he's doing more so this season than before is he is giving up some hard contact here in like a really meaningful way, 46.3%. So there's that, but he's going to miss those bats long term. Last season, just a 30.5% hard hit percentage. So I think it's just more to do with small sample, and every pitcher on planet Earth is going to get hit up, in a 2 or 3 game type sample size for some hard contact. But even still, he's gone out and just mowed down dudes. 28.8, 33.4, 34 DraftKings points the last 3 outings. Do you like fantasy points? If yes, play Corbin Burns. He should be 11.5. He's only 10.2 on DraftKings. On FanDuel, he's the best pitcher to play. Play lots of him on FanDuel. That's the end.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Boom.
Simple. Can't recognize Vince Scully, but he recognizes a good pitcher when he sees one.
Marcus Stroman on the other end.
Stroman's he's not in the Dallas Keuchel camp. I guess a better Framber Valdez because he doesn't strike anybody out, but he has the ability to pitch well. It's not a terribly good Brewers team here. He's just one of those guys that kind of gets left off the mix when it comes to DFS, whereas in real life he's pretty good.
Pretty good real life. I mean, he's another guy that kind of falls into that wayside of like really good real life pitcher, has been very serviceable in that. Going back to his Mets days, everything else. I mean, he's just had that ability, but it's never had a K percentage next to it. And now he's giving up hard contact, 576 expected slugging, 57.1% hard hit percentage in the early going here of this season. It's kind of waned over the course of his career. Last year, 42% hard hit percentage, found another way to limit it. He generally just pitches tons and tons of innings. He's always healthy. He's always in a good spot, but 57.1% hard hit percentage for this season. That is not ideal. He's middle of the pack in terms of the top pitchers tools. So if you land on a couple shares against Milwaukee, not the worst thing that ever happened, but Milwaukee generally ends up being a little bit overowned. There's flat leverage right now on DK, about the same. FanDuel, these prices are kind of broken on all these guys. Yelich has been 2,700 since the beginning of time, it feels like. So Milwaukee, when you look at the FanDuel slate, ends up being a little bit of a different beast. There's a little bit of negative leverage, and I actually expect some of those bats individually to be a little bit higher owned, but I can't really fault anybody. I mean, Milwaukee against Stroman, I'm just fine with it.
So you could take a few shots on the Brewers?
Yeah, you can. They won't be a team I get carried away with by any means. Again, on FanDuel, I think some of those prices look pretty appealing. They've looked appealing for weeks now, and that's generally made them very popular. If people are going to say Marcus Stroman's going to eventually have some regression, some positive regression, and start giving up less hard contact, just like his career averages, so be it. But I think right now you're just fine taking shots against him.
All right, next up, Diamondbacks, Cardinals. Jordan Hicks is getting the start here. He's started a couple of games this year, come out of the bullpen a few games this year. You said he's a strict non-play just because he's not stretched out yet.
Which guy? Sorry.
Jordan Hicks.
Yeah, no, we're not going to play Jordan Hicks. Yeah. He's a bullpen guy that he's pitched 2-2, 3-2 innings. Yeah, he's unplayable today.
So even with a few strikeouts, you're not getting there.
I mean, think about it.
I've kind of learned like not to play against these bullpen games, though. How does it affect what you do with Arizona?
Well, because you get to, I mean, once upon a time, it was even worse because you could bring in a guy any situation you wanted to, but now they have to face a minimum 3 batters, or it has to be towards the end of an inning or whatever the different rule is at this point in time. So you can't target individual hitters with individual pitchers the way that you were before. You have to basically take them in herds of 3 all the time. So that makes it a little bit different. But yeah, going up against St. Louis with Arizona stacks, not my favorite thing to do. I really strongly recommend not doing that. If you want to get to a couple, there's positive leverage there, but I'm going to tell you this. Here's a secret. There's always going to be positive leverage on Arizona this season. They are just that bad.
Yeah. St. Louis, negative leverage for them going up against Zach Davies. Another one of these guys doesn't strike out a whole lot, but has been an effective pitcher for a while, kind of middle of the road kind of guy. He takes some shots on the cards against Davies. Mm-hmm. I don't think we're getting to him on the mound today.
No, we are not. No. I said when I said write-off spots, this is like an absolute write-off spot. Zach Davies against St. Louis, 5,600, maybe a share or two if you want to. You could just play all of those guys sub 7K in a couple, and you're going to probably have some positive leverage. Like somebody's going to garner some ownership. I've already made it pretty clear. Josh Winder, just go down to 4K and just stack up bats if you really want to get different. Jordan Lyles, I am very strongly considering, and it makes me feel nauseous at 5,400. But Zach Davies, I think, is a complete write-off for me.
Yeah. How about the Cardinals lineup?
Cardinals lineup is never a complete write-off for me, just because there's such immense power there. There's going to be some negative leverage going their direction, but you can always isolate a couple bats and just kind of accept it. That being specifically Nolan Arenado, Paul Goldschmidt, guys of that nature. But there's no Goldschmidt in the lineup today. You've got Albert Pujols batting 5th. He's going to be, I guess, no, is he seriously playing first base today? That's fun. Seriously, he's playing first base. He's not DHing. That's
you killed Albert Pujols a couple of weeks ago and he hit a home run. So
no. I said play him on FanDuel. I just said I wouldn't play him over Goldschmidt on DK. Because you generally had to, like, the first base, you had to pick one of the two. Well, today you don't have to make that decision because it's made for you. You just would have to play Pujols, which doesn't feel great against a righty. I think against lefties, he's a guy that you can probably roster here and there. 3,500 on DK. I probably won't get to any of them there. I will play Corey Dickerson against a righty. That's for damn sure. Batting 6th here, St. Louis. Just fine with that. You get Bader. Put your hands up in the Bader. Bader. No, Jordan Klein.
I liked it.
I liked it too. Thank you.
Tommy, I didn't give you a guffaw.
5,300. That's outrageous. But Bader's 3,200. Corey Dickerson's 3,200. Dylan Carlson 7th is 3,800. Pretty cheap bats. So there's some opportunity there.
All right, some cheap bats. We got one more game, and this is only on the FanDuel slate. It is Braves Rangers. I'm now seeing Kyle Muller is the probable pitcher for the Braves. It had been TBD. So he gets a shot at Texas. Taylor Hearn going the other way for the Texas Rangers, who's struck out a decent amount, but not really a fun play against the Ronald Acuna now Braves lineup.
Yeah, this becomes very quick. We did get Kyle, what's his face, that ended up being the announced Atlanta starter. I saw that come through a little bit this morning. It was like at 6:15 or something my time. It was pretty early, but Taylor Hearn sucks. You're not going to play him on FanDuel. It's a one pitcher site. If you play Taylor Hearn and it works out for you, you are a god, you are a wizard, and teach me your ways.
There you go. Offenses on this game?
Yeah, you're gonna play the offenses in both spots here. Let me just double check. Hang on, I gotta find exactly who this starter was that got announced earlier. That was for Atlanta.
Oh, Kyle Muller. Yeah, you got
thank you. Thank you. Because it's not on Savant and it's not on FanGraphs here at the moment. So I just wanted to double check that it got updated correctly. But considering
some starts last year.
Yeah, but we're not gonna be going that direction. I think, I mean, for me, the priority, just looking at the top stacks tool as well, I mean, you just have to have a lot of interest going towards either. I mean, Atlanta's just so cheap in a lot of these spots. You get Acuna back in the lineup. It's very difficult for me not to have interest going their direction, stacking them up almost every single time out. You got a 9.1% top stack percentage. That's third best on FanDuel. There's definitely negative leverage there. So you have to kind of pick some individual bats, and looking at the ownership on certain guys. I mean, we have 29.4% on a 3,900 Ronald Acuna. That's an uncomfortable fade. I would still have some shares. I doubt I would get to 29% of any individual batter there, but Marcell Ozuna really sticks out, batting cleanup 3,100. That's absurd. This Travis Demeritte character is fantastic. 2,600 speed, hit, utility. Like, I really like this kid. He's second base eligible, 2,600 on FanDuel. I don't know where he really came from, but I really, really like what I've seen out of him. Maybe it's just also that clip of him hitting a home run. The lady behind the batter's box was just like, "Hey, hit a home run for me." And then he did and gave her a high five coming back through. That kind of stuff is endearing. Don't get fantasy points for it, but you do get fantasy points for a guy who's 2,600 is going to be at the back end of that lineup and relatively underowned for what he is.
You get like karma points. You get the feel good on the inside points with that kind of stuff. Like, I back that guy.
Exactly. Oh, and Taylor Hearn, go ahead and put Matt Olson against anybody. Left on left be damned. Play Matt Olson. He'll be the most underowned bat in that entire Atlanta lineup. So if you want to get different and you're looking for a way to stack up Atlanta that nobody else is, just play a lot of Matt Olson.
All right, so let's wrap this sucker up. In conclusion, because we got a lot of NBA content coming up. In conclusion, pitching heavy slate here. You got to get to Corbin Burns. You want to have him. We have some very good pitchers behind him, and Joe Musgrove and Kevin Gausman really should be the first one mentioned there behind Corbin Burns. So you want to get to some pitching value as far as the stacks go. If you want to go super pitching, is there anything that jumps off the board to you there? You said earlier you're kind of staying away from the value so far this season. So how does it affect how you're meshing everything together here?
Yeah, I mean, if I were playing more on FanDuel, I'm going to play primarily DK today for my MLB stuff. I would get to some Texas as well. They're very, very cheap. I mean, you get guys like Seager, Simeon. These guys are just extremely, extremely cheap on this side of it. So I will say that if I'm going to play a lot of Corbin Burns, that would be a team I have a feeling would fall into a lot of my lineups. Seager's 3,100. I wanted to kind of round out the analysis on them because I didn't really talk about them. You get a 3,200 Simeon. I bet they're actually pretty popular, so I have to really find ways to get different in those lineups. But that's a team that, shout out for FanDuel purposes. On DK, it is full bore Corbin Burns, Kevin Gausman for me. I talked about Gausman before the top pitchers tool updated. Now it has 26.9% top two pitcher percentage. That's second best on the slate. I love that our tools love him as much as I do. 29.9% ownership, so not a ton of negative leverage there. Joe Musgrove, I mean, he's further down and he's a little bit more overowned compared to his top two pitcher percentage at 20.3%. I think more people end up landing there just because of the matchup going up against Pittsburgh. So I'm going to take my chances against Houston with Gausman and be very overweight on that 27% number. I will say this next tier is pretty non-existent for me. I think the main guy to get to, Logan Gilbert, you get positive leverage just by default, 18.9% top two pitcher percentage with just 5.4% ownership. If you get 10%, you're double the field on it. So it's not that hard if you're making a bunch of lineups to do it. Tough to believe that I would play him in any kind of a 3-max setting. That's just pretty much going to be Corbin Burns and Kevin Gausman. Is it my SP1s there? What really gets fun is this SP2 conversation, because it looks like Pivetta is garnering a ton of attention. And yeah, he's got a 15.2% top two pitcher percentage, 30.1% ownership. Baltimore is terrible. This ballpark is incredible, but I just think that there's so many great opportunities like Jordan Lyles, 5,400 against Boston.
Because of Franchi.
Because of Franchi. Again, that kind of was the spark that lit the flame that burned the world order down. That was a Star Wars Episode 7 reference. Don't mind me. But I feel like I want to get to some shares above what I was expecting. Just looking at this Boston lineup and how many Ks are available. Trevor Story leading off is beautiful stuff. Mwah, chef's kiss in terms of pitchers in that regard. Sure, he's going to be better long-term and he's a good batter. And I think he'll be fine and kind of right the ship. But as it stands right now, I think going to the cellar, I'm going to play some Jordan Lyles and Josh Winder, 5,400 and 4K respectively.
So the pitching is big there. Yes, you mentioned Winder quite a few times this show. And looking at the top stacks end of this, I got the Yankees and Angels by far as my favorite two plays today. You got some power. We talked about Dallas Keuchel, and yes, he can frustrate you sometimes, but he also gives up the moon every once in a while. So you get a shot there with the Angels.
Is that a bridge reference
with either of those teams?
Was that a bridge reference?
Bridge
shoots the moon.
Oh no, I'm just spitting nonsense.
Oh, okay. Well, I loved it.
Oh, okay. Well,
came out of nowhere.
Of course it was a reference to that.
Okay. Well, let's just do this quick because we've talked about a lot of the stacks. I'm with you. I think the Yankees. I think that you have to be looking at the Angels as well. You know, as uncomfortable as it is because Keuchel just finds a way to limit it. And the Padres, I feel like I haven't been able to roster the Padres since 1993. So I think the Padres, 8.5% top stack percentage, pretty flat leverage there as well. Boston is going to be a very large fade for me today. I think I'm going to play some Lyles against them. I'm just not going to play them in this new ballpark that exists that is Camden Yards. It's just something is going on there. If it burns me, it burns me. But Boston's going to be my heavy fade at 11, like what is it? 14.8% ownership share, the most owned team on this slate. I will say I'm also going to be fading Miami if they're going to be popular as it looks like they're going to be. So 3.2% top stack percentage is not a lot in that direction. I think Minnesota always has to be talked about because up and down that lineup, there's opportunity. You get some of those platoon guys that just kind of make sense. And yeah, it's never fun against Josh Fleming. It's a glorified kind of bullpen situation here. You don't have any problem getting to some cheapies in that lineup with Garlick, who we just saw go nuts at 2,100 there. But the big key is just having Byron Buxton back in that lineup. It brings such upside to that team against a lefty. I know it's not a great ballpark, but I absolutely love getting to some Twins as a contrarian stack.
No, I think the Twins make sense. I'm trying, because everybody, a lot of people are going to be looking at these top pitchers, right? And trying to get two of them in, as you talked about. So you see the negative leverage for all the teams that have some value, and the Twins is kind of the best you're going to do because it's going to be tough, especially we talk about the Yankees, the Angels stacks being great today. Not exactly cheap prices all the way through. You can mix in guys. We all know that at the bottom of the lineup, but it'll be a little trickier to differentiate yourself with some of these things. So Minnesota shows up for me. Arizona a little bit, but we talked about Arizona. You don't necessarily want to go there today.
Ooh, we got to do double dong picks, and I'm not going to pick Buxton because I'm not going to be that guy. But Buxton is definitely in play.
Buxton's in play for a double dong.
Yeah, I mean he's going to be low owned. He's going to be 6K, and people aren't going to get there. I'm going to find ways to be over 4.6%.
Okay, so take a shot on Byron Buxton. Let me see. I got to pull up my numbers here, and I'll try to give you a little double dong. Want to go Albert Pujols double dong? No, I'm not going to go Albert Pujols.
If you did, and he did, you would be a god. You would be anointed king of Awesemo.
It's got to be something fun, I like to have fun. Ooh, okay.
Who do you got?
Well, he's not on the.
I want chat. Put your double dongs.
Yeah. Let's get some double dongs in
also,
here.
It's so hard to hit 2 home runs in the year of our Lord 2022 because the baseball is deader than. Oh, I don't even want to go there. That's a bad analogy.
Okay,
we're not going to do that.
George Springer, he hit it yesterday. I'm not going back to him, but he did get a double dong yesterday. That was fun. All right, let me pull it up. Here we go. Now I got it in front of me. Wow, it likes. You know what? Let's see. Yeah. I'll take Brandon Lau. Like me some Brandon Lau.
That's a great idea.
That's my guy. I love him in Tampa. Just pulls it right down the line.
Giancarlo Stanton, confirmed lefty killer.
He's pretty good when he hits the ball. Ooh, Josh Donaldson double dong in there. Oh, someone said Brandon Lau.
Someone said Brandon Lau already. Tyler O'Neill
are on the same.
I don't hate
same
that.
Page.
Eric Hosmer. I don't hate that. We have a sharp chat.
Double
I
dong
like
for Hosmer.
I mean, that would be so fun. Yeah, I'm gonna definitely be overweight to Hosmer, which I can't say that I've ever said that in my life and felt good about what was going to happen. If you're trying to get really different, here you go. Dan Vogelbach leading off 4,800. He's going to be 1% maybe owned on this slate against Musgrove. Might as well take a lefty against him in like 3%, 4% of my lineups.
I always like Bogey. I'll take shots on him.
And I'm
no problem with that. Let's see.
I will say Musgrove's going to be the guy that I'm kind of shorting out of that top tier of guys in Burns and Gilbert. So why not play a batter going up against him?
Always play against the guys that I talk up.
Yeah. Oh, you were just talking about Musgrove, and so
I was talking him up like an hour ago, and then you corrected me. You did good. I thought he was the second best guy on the board, but then you were like, no, No, we have Kevin Gausman here, and I slacked on Kevin Gausman, and now we're all on board. Kevin Gausman against the Astros. Got that top pitchers tool. We're ready to roll.
We're ready to roll. Let's
give us a like, subscribe, keep up with all of our shows, our DFS offers, our giveaways, and much, much more. Once you do subscribe, hit that notification button to get alerts when our shows go live. If you like this dynamic, hey, we appreciate it. Throw a thumbs up, a like, the whole 9 yards. We'll be back with you every Sunday. Substitute teacher here, PD Mac. Hopefully, didn't let you out of control here. I let Eric a little off the leash at times, but that's okay. I enjoy it. I had fun. I learned something about Eric today. He knows nothing about baseball broadcasters, and I guess that's okay. NBA Deeper Dive is coming up next with Laffy and Josh. You raised some eyebrows. Did you want to respond?
No, my dog just bit my hand and I'm bleeding. Don't mind me.
Okay. Well, if Eric is okay, he'll be back for the for NBA in about an hour and a half. So stitch yourself up, get all fixed up. Eric Lindquist there. I'm Pete McCarthy. Appreciate Jordan Klein making it all happen. Thanks for watching. And of course, NBA Deeper Dive coming up next.